Hey, how's it going, pop-up camper family? Welcome back to It's Poppin'. So as promised, we are going to tackle the renovation of the flooring in our pop-up camper. So what are we using again?
So we're going to be installing this Trafficmaster winding brook, which is a vinyl plank click-together flooring.
So this stuff is cool because essentially it is, of course, a backed vinyl plank. And for those of you who might have some concerns about, for example, your cabinets pulling out and clearing the flooring, or if you have a slide out, the slide out sliding over these are about 4 millimeters in width. So we kind of did a little test in ours. We made sure, of course, that even if we lay this vinyl plank flooring right over our existing, what is that? Is that a sheet?
It's sheet laminate,
yeah,
sheet vinyl.
The sheet vinyl, even if we lay it directly on top of that, all those things will clear, which of course it does, so that's great. So that's why we go with this. Now, just one note, we go with this click-together vinyl plank flooring because it can withstand temperature variations a little bit better than the peel and stick flooring that we commonly see a lot of people use. So that's why we go with this. You're not gonna, if you have those temperature variations, you don't have to worry about that adhesive letting go and, you know, essentially coming up and ruining your flooring. So that's why we go with this. Maybe if you're in a more temperate or moderate climate where you don't have those temperature variations, you can get away with that, but that's why we go with this. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So actually, first things first, we are going to replace the old nasty tan carpet that's on the steps of our pop-ups that are kind of like leading up to the bunk ends. They cover up the cable housing. So we're going to replace that with some a little bit nicer, newer padded carpeting that we actually picked up when we renovated our Starcraft. So that way we got some nice new carpet on those steps. We're going to use these old pieces as some templates, and it doesn't appear they're cut perfectly square, so I'm not going to worry about the new one being too square. Try not to poke myself with these old staples. Now we're going to, of course, staple down our carpet. First things first, this is the top of our step. So because this rolls up and under, we're gonna make sure the back side of this is lined up about as perfectly as we can get it. It actually looks pretty good like that. All right, and then I'm just gonna throw some staples in here. Pull this tight, throw one staple down in the middle. So now that we've got the carpet on our steps all installed and finished up, before we put down the vinyl plank flooring, of course, we want to give the flooring a bit of a cleanup. So vacuum, clean it off. That way there's no dirt or debris under that vinyl plank flooring when we go to put it down. So this first piece was probably hopefully the hardest piece we have to kind of get figured out. So what we've got going on here is some semi-intricate cuts. Of course, because we have this little gap right in here that of the flooring that shows, we cut out this so it slides in really nicely. Now, one thing we didn't think about and that we hit a bit of a snag was the, I guess, stands or bolts that actually attach the whole slide out right here. So of course we had to cut that out. So what we're aiming for is ideally a 1/4 inch gap to allow this whole flooring to float in between each of the walls. So it kind of snugs right in like that. And if you want to show right here, we have about a 1/4 inch. Now what we did for the refrigerator here is we did snug that up a little bit, just so when you're looking down and the fridge is open, you don't see a gap, but it's just slight. So maybe 1/8 of an inch right there, but that's just kind of our preference. So hopefully this is the hardest piece we have to cut. So in theory, we're gonna use about 3 boxes of flooring, actually probably a little bit under, but what we did is we took all 3 boxes, and what we're gonna do as we keep laying the flooring, we're just gonna go from 1 to 2 to 3, back to 1. That way we have a nice mixture of flooring. That way if you get different batches that look slightly different, it's nicely interspersed amongst your flooring. It's hitting something. All right, let's see what it's.
Alright guys, so as you can see, we have that center support for our slide out with that roller on top. So we're of course going to have to notch that out over there so that way our flooring can tuck back in.
This is ridiculous.
You're the troll under the slide out.
I feel like the troll under the slide out.
Good job.
Thank you.
So now that we got that first, I don't know, strip of flooring all done, you guys kind of saw how crazy with all the cutouts for like the fridge and the slide out supports and all that fun stuff. Now we can go on our second strip of flooring, and that's going to be real simple. We're going to use one of the leftover pieces so that that flooring starts to get staggered, and it should be pretty smooth sailing from here. Okay, so I'm a little bit mad at myself because I failed to measure the part of the camper over there for our plank width as opposed to right here. So this last spot I did measure the width in between the cabinets here. So what you can do actually before you start off out is you take your, and we'll call this a room measurement, but of course the width in between cabinets for a pop-up, divide that by the width of the plank. In our instance it's 6 inches, and if that comes out to less than 2 inches, you're going to want to shorten that first plank so that of course what doesn't happen is this right here where we have like less than an inch in between the plank that we lay down, and of course our cabinet over there. So like I said, I measured over there, but the length in between the cabinets on this side over here is actually a little bit less. These cabinets are a little offset and they're not equal. So a little bit mad at myself. We're gonna have kind of a skinny run of planks right there in between that last set, and then of course a shower, but we'll work through it. Not ideal, but just a tip for those of you looking to do this yourself.
It's probably like everything that they tell you not to do.
Plumbing 101, don't do this. That's really small. We're done with the main floor. We're going to move on to the dinette, and I will give you some details exactly how we're doing this flooring. So the dinette in between each of the benches is 29 and an eighth or thereabouts. So of course, because we need a 1/4 inch gap on each side, we're going to knock a total of a 1/2 inch off. So we're going to knock this down to right around 28. Let's see here. We got 28 and 7/8. Hopefully my math is right or my numbers are right, but regardless, we're going to do 28 and 7/8 on this board. So I've marked 28 and 7/8 on our board, and now because we have that marked off, I'm going to take our speed square here. Let's get the foam pad just so we don't cut into our countertops, like so. And we have a fresh razor blade, and I just set this speed square so we can go right down that mark. I like doing it about 3 times. 1, 2, 3, so that way it gets maybe halfway through our vinyl plank here. Snap it, set it on its edge, and then once again go through the face of our board. So in theory, this should be our first plank in the dinette booth here. We'll see how we did on size. And yeah, we'll keep it a 1/4 inch off each wall, and then a 1/4 inch off the back wall there. And that'll be the start of it. All right, guys, so the flooring's all in, and we're to the final step, essentially. So what we have here is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch PVC 1/4 round. And of course, that'll allow us to trim out that 1/4 inch gap that we left with our vinyl planks. We'll trim it up nicely. And we bought 4 of these. These are each 8 feet, so 32 feet. That should be more than enough with a little bit extra to trim out entire flooring. So let's get to it. Alright, so now that we got our first piece cut, we are going to use our brad nail. For this we're going to use 18 gauge 1.5 inch brad nails. And now of note, you don't want to brad nail through the vinyl plank flooring. So you're going to go in at kind of an angle through that 1/2 inch piece of 1/4 round, more or less like into the wall, and that way it holds, all the while maintaining that floating effect on your floor. So that's what we got going. Let's get to it. Yep, hit it.
This is such a weird angle.
You're off. There you go. Actually
What? Can you get your arm in there?
there's one. Can you get one way in the back?
to roll over, but I can't. The world's worst angle. Oh, I can't pull the trigger.
No. Get it?
Yeah, I did.
All right, guys, so now that our trim is all brad nailed on, I am going to just hit it with a little bit of paintable caulk, just kind of finish up those seams a little bit better, go over where the brad nails are, cover them up. And I'm just using some regular old paintable type caulk. This is indoor and or outdoor, and you can paint it. So it's not the same stuff that we use on the outside, but it's essentially meant for these like trim board pieces. So it's just the final finishing touch that really brings it all together. Alright guys, so just a few closing thoughts on the flooring. As you guys noticed, we went from bunk to bunk in terms of like the orientation for flooring this time. That was one of those lessons we learned from both the, well, I guess really just the StarCraft, because it had the slide out. We learned that if you don't go from bunk to bunk, it'll tend to slide out from under the quarter round because there's no backer, if you will, under the slide out. So definitely if you guys have a slide out, go bunk to bunk. If not, I don't think it's a huge deal, but we also found that we weren't as wasteful with the flooring.
Definitely.
There's a lot less waste when we went bunk to bunk as opposed to side to side. So kind of lesson there, a learn there. Additionally, as pop-up campers, I know everybody's conscientious about weight. So we estimate that with the 2 boxes plus a few extra pieces, we're right at about 75 pounds of additional dry weight in our pop-up. So of course, we have a rather large Highwall, so 75 pounds is probably the extreme end, but just be cognizant of that if you're right around their toe limits. And finally, you guys may have noted that as opposed to in the Palomino renovation project, we did the flooring before the countertops. Of course, if you're going to be doing your own pop-up camper renovation and perhaps you're going to be using a countertop renovation method where you're painting it or something like that, maybe it gets a little messy inside the pop-up camper, you might want to hold off on putting the flooring down until after that. However, speaking of countertops,
we are not going to be painting our countertops this time. We're actually going to be using a contact paper that's made for countertops. We're really excited. We've never done this method before, and so you'll have to stick around to see how we like it.
Yeah, so that will that's why we felt comfortable doing the flooring prior to the countertops, because we knew it wouldn't be messy. So as always, guys, hopefully we see you in the next video. If not, hopefully we see you out there camping.